All right, man. I think we did it. Yes, we did it. Oops, I clicked the wrong button here. 2 seconds. Let me just get you on the correct page. You were seeing the wrong thing. And now you see the field manual. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have points, and I'm freaking dang excited. So, right now, right off the bat, yes, we got to say, Mr. Yoga in the chat has brought up the number one thing we got to talk about for Warhammer 40k right now. All of Cooper's armies have been nerfed. Here, 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 here. And but basically, there are massive, massive changes that have just occurred, and there's no way we're going to possibly be able to get through absolutely all of them. So what I did is I went through and I wrote down the really, really big points. I'm going to go through all of the points for you right now. I'm going to go ahead and give like initial thoughts on exactly what we're going to see changing in some of the armies, and there's really freaking big ones, huge ones, some would say. The hugest. Ask anyone, they'll tell you. Everyone will tell you these are the biggest changes, the best changes. And we'll get right on into it. So basically, my first thoughts overall is that GW has proven that they care about actually a lot of things, and they really cleaned up a lot of the keywords and some things we really weren't expecting, because we really were just expecting some points. They went overboard in a few places, but overall, I think this is a pretty dang good little balance patch here. I know it's not exactly a balance patch, but let's go and break down exactly who the winners and who the losers of everything is. So Adeptus Sororitas, these girls, they got hit, and they probably deserve to get hit a little bit, but I don't think they deserve to get hit this bad. This is pretty dang intense. If you guys look right here at the Triumph of St. Catherine, holy crap, the Triumph went up like 60 points. Now the Triumph was amazing, it was too good, but it went up by 60 points on top of a bunch of other things going up as well. I think I can very confidently say right now that I am not particularly concerned about Sisters anymore. This also doesn't mean that Sisters are useless, but these points are actually kind of wild when you stack them all up. When you do like the double nerfs, where you nerf the character and you nerf the unit the character leads, it's a lot. So for example, you take the Paragon Warsuits led by Morven Vahl. Do you really need to nerf both the Warsuits and Morven Vahl? Couldn't you just nerf the Warsuits or just nerf Morven Vahl? Because if you put 10 points on one and 10 points on the other, that's a 20-point nerf, because you're not really taking them individually without the other, right? So I kind of hate it when GW does balance patches like that, where they over-nerf everything. But it is what it is. It is okay. I think Sisters are still going to be okay. We can see in the chat right now, we got Mr. Adam there. He's talking about how Triple Exorcist is still really, really good, and he's not wrong. Triple Exorcist is still really, really good. There's still gonna be lots of ways to play Sisters, but the typical Bringers of Flame build is probably gonna be changed. So, Zephyrim going down in points a little bit, fair, but I don't really think it's going to be enough to make Sisters players super happy. Let's talk about the next one, the Adeptus Caustodes. Now, here is one where I am certain everyone is gonna be freaking thrilled, because nothing changed at all, and no one wants Caustodes to be good, except for us Caustodes players. So when we're looking at Contemptor's Achilles, Contemptor Galatus, it makes zero difference that they are cheaper. They still move base 6, and there have been no changes to them otherwise. For those of you who are just tuning in, make sure you check your indexes and check your codexes, because some of the datasheet abilities have actually changed. There have been subtle updates to some of the cards, which there's no way of knowing unless you look through it. So there's no way I've been through everything, so I can't tell you all of them, but I do know for a fact there's been some changes. So for example, the Telamon Heavy Dreadnought. Now, if you give him 2 close combat weapons, he gets +2 to his attacks, which doesn't really make me want to take the Telamon, but it actually is a nice little boost to the Telamon, and it does make you sort of want to consider him now. So there are going to be some of these little changes. Joe's in the chat. He says, MFM on a Wednesday, what is the world coming to? Buddy, I have no idea. I have no idea what happens. Orion's in the chat. He's talking about war bosses back in Transference. Bro, we're going to get to Orcs, because something tells me Team Green is back on the menu, and this I'm freaking excited to do more Orcs content. But let's finish up on Caustodes. So yeah, both of these Dreadnoughts went down. Trajan Valoris went down. This is actually kind of cool, because Trajan was dramatically overcosted. I would argue he's still I would argue all the Custode characters are a little overcosted. But now at 140, there might be some builds where we can actually bring him, which would be cool to see. And before anyone starts bitching and moaning, he's not busted. He's not broken. He doesn't even ignore all modifiers anymore, so I don't want to hear it. Virtus Praetors went down, which effectively means nothing, because dude, I don't know how cheap those Virtus Praetors would actually have to be before they would be worth taking. Like, they would have to be ludicrously costly, like game-breakingly cheap for us to ever actually take them over, say, like a Venatari or something. So yeah, that's Caustodes. No massive changes. Let's look at the Adeptus Mechanicus. Overall, looks... Man, see, I'm not an AdMech specialist, but I do know that some of their units going down is a good thing. Cerberus Sulfur Hounds going down is pretty nice. Some, like, their normal battle line troops went up just a little bit, which seems totally reasonable. The chickens went up a little bit, which seems reasonable. I'm not really sure the Traxi should have gone up. I'm not really sure how people are going to react to this. I think AdMech is actually a much better army than what a lot of people on the internet probably argue. Probably because my main training partner is a AdMech specialist and slaps with them. So maybe I'm a little bit biased there. But I'm not really certain they needed any nerfs or buffs. I actually thought they were pretty good. But honestly, it looks pretty balanced where I'm at. Iron Striders going up a little bit seems reasonable. Get a few cheapers that are a little bit cheaper. So that seems fine. All right, let's move on to something a little more interesting. This is big. Okay, so looking at the Eldari, there is a massive points buff to Eldar, which was pretty darn surprising. And interestingly enough, most of the points buffs were to things that weren't really being taken, which I think is a really cool thing. They're trying to encourage new units for Eldar. So when we're looking at this, Corsairs went down in points a little bit. I'm not sure that's really going to matter, but Corsairs went down in points a little bit. The Falcon went down in points a little bit, which is great because I think the Falcon's pretty usable. The Fire Prism down in points a little bit. I'm not so sure that was necessary, but I don't think that's game breaking at all. I have no problems with it. When we look at the Shining Spears, they went down in points. I think that's great because Shining Spears are too expensive, especially with their ludicrous 60mm bases. Did you guys know that Shining Spears are on 60mm bases? That is absolutely insane to me. Someone's asked me to put my volume up. I will just move a little closer. Is this better? Does my voice entice you now? Are you very excited? Okay, moving on to some of the other things that Eldar is going to be receiving. They now have cheaper Warlock Conclaves. I'm not sure that matters, but a cheaper Wave Serpent is nice. Wraith Blades and Wraith Guards going down a little bit is pretty cool, because I'd like to see some more Wraith Guard and Wraith Blades on the table, actually. And they do seem pretty overcosted with all the rules nerfs on top of everything. So I think Eldar players are going to be a little bit happy. Nothing earth-shattering, but I'm not certain that they need anything earth-shattering, because they were already pretty okay. And I think this might just give them a slight little edge where they might be able to take some different units, which can see some really interesting combinations. So that looks good to me. And if you're an Eldar player, type in the chat, because I'd like to hear your opinions on it. Astra Militarum. Now, this is one where it's, this is interesting. Okay, so Bulgrin got annihilated. Bulgrin got absolutely mutilated in this, man, they went up from 180 to 220. They went up by 40 points. So 18 Bulgrin is probably gone, which I don't think anyone's super sad about. But we did get some other interesting little things. Your heavy weapon squads go down. Your field ordnance batteries go down. Your Ogryn went down. I don't know if that makes Ogryn usable, but Ogryn actually are looking kind of interesting at the 60-point level. Scout Sentinels, which were already quite good going down, just gives Guard a few points to play with. Tank Commander goes up, but this is an example of something where this is a sneaky nerf buff, because people didn't see this. If you haven't looked at the Tank Commander's data sheet yet, the Tank Commander got a very, very interesting little upgrade. He currently got Squadron added to him, which allows him to affect himself with his own orders, which is pretty dang spicy. So, yeah, that is kind of the thing there. Oh, geez. Magic Dad saying good afternoon. He had to ask Alexa what time it is in Norway. Bro, it is almost 2 in the afternoon. And I'm happy to have you here. It's a total pleasure. All right. Yeah, so those are the big changes for the Guard. They had no other changes. I think those are totally reasonable, because Guard are actually in a pretty dang good place. Maybe just changing the big wall of Bulgrin is going to be a good way to encourage slightly different builds. I think Guard still has a ton of great options. Tons of great options. I think you can still run amazing Catechins with your scout moves. Your Casterkin are still freaking great. You still have a battery of indirect if you want to use it. So I think this is no huge nerf. It's definitely just going to change the way the lists are built a little bit. So I'm excited to see what comes out of it. Now this is an army that's about to get poked in the freaking eye. Black Templars are being punished for their sins. And I don't know if you guys know about this list, though. There's a list out there called the Austrian Highway, which is made by a gentleman named Kevin Zollinger. And it is disgusting. It was running Captain Grimaldus with his big Crusader squad, and then just spamming Reapers. So it was effectively like an old-style Iron Storm list, but with Grimaldus and the Crusader squad in Gladius. And that was just given a good 40-point nerf, because this Crusader squad went up by 40 points, and Captain Grimaldus, I think, went up by 10. So that's a good 50-point nerf, which I think is good, because that's going to slow down that big abuse. Black Templars overall, I'm not really certain they needed big nerfs like this, but I'm certainly not upset by it, especially when we saw the success of, crap, I forgot the French guy's name. Olivier, I can't remember his last name, though. Olivier's massive Black Tide, where he was just taking 100+ Crusaders. So, reining that in a little bit, I think is totally reasonable, and I'm excited to see some new builds with the Black Templars coming out. Yeah. All right. Then, moving on to the Blood Angels. Guys, I have opinions. I have opinions on the Blood Angels. All right. Liberator Assault Group is going to be fine. Liberator Assault Group is going to be good. It's going to be totally usable. Angelic Host has effectively 0 play. And we know that the Death Company detachment is just awful, and it was never going to have play. Unfortunately, I am starting to think that some of the real play is going to be in Gladius. But hopefully we can make Liberator Assault Group still be good. I'm definitely going to be playing with them, I think, tonight. And tomorrow I'll probably be running my Orcs. We'll see if I can stream any of those if you guys are interested. So first off, Astaroth stays at 105. Seems totally fine. I would probably actually put Astaroth down a little bit, but Astaroth's totally fine. So, all right, here's the deal. All the characters are fine. The characters are totally fine in Blood Angels. They don't need any changes. But the units are just too expensive, man. The Ball Predator going up to 135 when it was at 125. I don't really understand that. Blood Angels Captain going up to 80, totally fine. It's the same cost as a normal Captain. It should be 80. That makes a lot of sense. Mephiston at 125 is totally fine. Everyone's saying he's completely busted and broken. They're wrong. I've playtested this a bunch right now. Mephiston does not need to be 175 like some guys on some other channels were saying. They were just freaking lunatics with that one. Dante at 130 is totally reasonable. I think 120 was fine, but 130 doesn't mean I'm not going to take him. I still love Dante. Death Company Captain went down to 70, which is probably a reasonable choice because the Death Company characters kind of suck. Then we have the Death Company Captain with Jump Pack, went down to 85. Okay. Death Company Dreadnought, down to 180 from the 220. Guys, here's what the Death Company Dreadnought is. The Death Company Dreadnought is a bad Brutalis Dreadnought. That's what he is. And for some reason, he costs 20 points more. So, he's dead, and he'll never be taken. At least not by me. We've got Death Company Marines. They went down to 90 points. This is probably pretty close to reasonable, especially considering, just keep in context that they lost all their weapons. They do not all have Power Fist and Inferno Pistols anymore. And like now one has a Power Fist and one has a Eviscerator, and I think there's one Inferno Pistol. So big freaking difference there, guys. Okay, so Death Company Marines went down. That's good. Death Company Marines with Bolt Rifles at 90 points is hilarious. There's no reason anyone will ever take them. You have Death Company Marines with Jump Packs. Only went down by 10 points, and this is a travesty. I cannot for the life of me understand who the heck made this decision. A unit of 5 Death Company Marines went from having 5 Power Fists and 5 Inferno Pistols down to having 2 Power Fist, 1 Inferno Pistol, and 1 Eviscerator. And they went down by 10 points. That is obnoxious to me, and I think that's travesty. It's possible they're still usable in 5-mans, but they are not good. That's for sure. Lamarte's went up to 110, where he was 100 in the Codex. I don't understand that, especially when he's no longer leading anywhere near as strong a unit. That's a little surprising. So I'm probably dropping the Lamarte's brick from my army altogether, to be honest with you. Sangard went down 5 points each. Now this is the correct direction. I think at 45 we can run 1 unit as Sangard. There's basically no way you can spam them. They're way too expensive to be able to spam them at that point cost. But I do believe that there's a reason to run. There's a reason to run 1. So especially in my Liberator Assault group, I'm going to be running 1 brick. I would also consider running them in Gladius and running 1 brick, because when they're led by Dante, it's a very expensive squad. But the +1 to advance and charge is really, really big on them, especially when you have access to advance and charge. And getting access to lethal and lance is pretty solid. I've play tested the Sangard maybe 10 times now. 37 points is what I would rate them. I think 40, and there's really nothing to complain about, but 37 points is probably where I would rate them. 45 is still too expensive, but I do believe we can still take 1 unit and be very effective with it. And then we can see we shifted some of the points cost, which is a little interesting. Really strange that they actually increased the cost of Icon of the Angel, which won't be used, and they decreased the cost of Speed of the Primarch, which is the Fight First, which is always going to be used. Hilarious. Anyway, let's move on. Chaos Demons! Demons got a little bit of a shuffling, but basically they remained untouched, which I think makes all demon players really, really happy. Beast of Nurgle went down by 5 points. Shalaxi Hellbrain went down by 25 points. I still think she's too expensive. I don't think you're going to take her. And the Redmaster and Bloodthrone went up. Basically, that's it. None of the little demons got touched. None of the big demons got touched outside of Shalaxi. So I think demon players are pretty happy because demons are in a very solid place. Chaos Knights just got some general points deductions. I think what all these points deductions add up to is an extra little Nurgling squad, which is great. So I think Chaos Knights are going to be quite happy. Moving on to Chaos Space Marines. Now, this is the big one. And I really, 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 really think they did a good job with the Chaos Space Marines here. I think they did a great job with the Chaos Space Marines here. Because they nerfed the things that needed to be nerfed. Accursed Cultist, Dark Commune was what was busted. And actually, we'll get into it in just a moment. Accursed Cultist got double nerfed. It wasn't just them that got nerfed and their character that got nerfed. They also nerfed surge moves. So we'll get into that in a little while. But now any unit in the game that has a surge move mechanism can only use that surge move once per turn. So there you have it. It's been changed. All right, so Abaddon goes down. Yep, fair enough. He was pretty expensive, but I think it's reasonable to put him down a little bit. Accursed went up, totally reasonable. Bikers stay the same. All these things the same. Predator Annihilator goes down. That's not the one you were taking anyway, so fair play. Chaos Terminators go down. I don't think you're taking Terminators anyway, but I think it's good to encourage us to try to take them. Dark Commune went up. Thank goodness. That was the real problem. It wasn't even Accursed Cultists that were the real problem. It was the Dark Commune. Havocs went back down. Thank you. Why did Havocs go up in the first place? That was such a stupid nerf. That was someone at GW being like, and just not understanding competitive play. Legionnaires, a 10-man squad went down, which is interesting. I actually like this. I really think I enjoy this split unit's points cost. So a 5-man stayed the same at 90, but a 10-man went down to 170 instead of the 180 that would have been. I think that's actually very cool. Disco Lord went down a little bit. I still don't think you're ever going to be able to use him unless they change his data sheet. Could someone, by the way, if anyone's in chat right now, if you could check for me if they changed the Disco Lord's data sheet to include the vehicle keyword instead of the mounts keyword. If they give him the vehicle keyword at 175, there might be some play for him in Soulforge specifically, but I don't really know. Yeah, Dan's, I just actually checked that. So I said that was one of the very first things I said about Caustodes is that you can now take 2 fists on Telemons and get 7 attacks. I don't really think that matters, but it is nice to see that GW actually paid attention to the problem with the data sheet and not the and not just thinking, oh, it's a points thing, because they're really not a points thing. It's a problem with the data sheet. So they're making these changes where they're trying to approach it. I don't think they fixed it, but it's cool to see that they tried to fix the actual problem and not just points. Oh yeah. There were actually quite a few points that were updated, Joe. Absolutely. Zulu wants to know, why does Vehicle on Disco Lord make the big difference? Because it allows him to interact with the Soul Forge detachment, where he is really, really big. And he could then actually lead the vehicles like he's supposed to. So it's actually very, very big. Okay, going through a few more of these things. We got Obliterators down. Good. Possessed down by 5 points. I think Possessed are one of those units, and if you guys watch my recent video on units that are underutilized, Possessed are a good dang unit that any other codex would love to have. It's just they keep getting overshadowed by other options in the Chaos Space Marines codex. So they just do. But it doesn't mean that the Possessed are bad. So there you go. Raptors got cheaper in the 10-man squad. I love that. I just love the idea of making the bigger squads more attractive, because they're trying to... I think they want people to not take MSU, even though they're not really consistent in that. So I love the idea of just making bigger units slightly cheaper. In some scenarios, in other scenarios, it's a problem. Vashtor went down in points, and Vashtor got upgraded, so now you can actually use all of Vashtor's abilities in the Soul Forged attachment. He can actually use all the stratagems, which is really good. And then Warp Talons went down by 10 points, which is good, because 135 was a little ludicrous for Warp Talons, so a little bit down is a good idea, so I like that. That's the changes to CSM. Dark Angels got punched in the nose a little bit. Azrael went up. Deathwing Knights went up by 25 points. So that whole Dark Angels Gladius build is going to be a lot harder to run now, which I love. But they got a little bit of love in the form of their other units, their Ravenwing units, which I think is cool. Is Lionel Johnson usable at 285 instead of 300? I kind of doubt it. But there it is. Thanks for checking, Darcha. Appreciate you. Darcha says he just checked for see if the Disco Lord got a vehicle keyword, and he says it did not. So thank you for taking a check, taking a look-see. Joe saying that he thinks Possessed need AP2 in his opinion. So AP1 is totally fine, especially with the actual ability for them to get dev wounds when they want. And you got to understand that we also have to think about how these units interact with certain detachments. Because if you put them up to AP2, that means in Renegade Raiders, they're going to go to AP3. That's nonsense. So AP1, and then in Raiders, they go up to AP2 is much more reasonable in my opinion. But, you know, we can fight about it. So I love you, but we can box. Okay, so that was Dark Angels. So I'm excited to see a few, like, more Raven Wing style builds for Dark Angels. Death Guard. Hilariously, their character got a little cheaper. The Biologist Putrefier, even cheaper. Good. Death Shroud went down, which I think is a mistake, but that's okay. And Mortarion went down. I think Mortarion was already fan-freaking-tastic. Like, the guy's insanely good, and people just don't take him, which is really surprising to me. A 6-inch aura of you don't get modifiers is just nonsense powerful. So, yeah, I think that's wild. But I don't think Death Guard are breaking the game, so I'm not upset about it. I just think Death Guard players are going to be freaking thrilled. And here we get to Drukhari. Now, here's the deal, guys. This is an interesting one for me. I'm not particularly upset that things went up in cost because things were too cheap. And I don't believe that this is a huge nerf. It does make a Drukhari army probably drop a unit, which I think is totally fair. They have too many freaking units. Drukhari, but people were looking at this like, yeah, Drukhari really deserved it. When you look at their win rate's something like 57%, but that's not taking ELO into consideration because Drukhari are over-winning at the lower tables and under-winning at the top tables. So it's like, I don't think they need massive nerfs. I do think some targeted nerfs is probably pretty reasonable. They just had too many units on the table, so I think that's totally fair. Genestealer cults are happy because Genestealer cults deserve happiness, unlike what most people might think. Most people might think Genestealer cults deserve sadness and terror and horrifying things, but in all reality, they deserve happiness, and they're about to get it. I like this idea. The aberrants here are actually... So this is the reverse of what we saw earlier, right? So we saw earlier that Raptors are cheaper in 10-mans or Legionnaires are cheaper in 10-mans. Now we're seeing the reverse of that. Aberrants are cheaper in 5-mans and more expensive in 10-mans. I think this is cool. I really, really think this is a really good balancing mechanism for unit sizes where we can make certain less attractive unit sizes cheaper to more encourage you to play a little bit of a different style. So I think that's really cool. So Aberrants, perhaps they are quite useful now. Acolyte hybrids with auto pistols down. Everything down. Everything's down. Just nothing is... A Patriarch at 75 points is kind of hilariously cheap in my opinion. Hey man, Genstealers are not as bad as people think they are. And I'm not only talking about Outlaw Riders. So maybe this is going to give some faction specialists the ability to actually look at the Codex a little bit more and try to expand and play some really interesting things. Because there are some cool things that you can do with Genestealer cults. If you guys know, in our Discord, we've got a couple guys, and Danny Porter is a fantastic Genestealer cults player. So shout out to him. He's a member in our Discord. He also runs a few other Discords out there. So you can pick his brain to see what he thinks about these changes. Grey Knights. Grey Knights are an example of an army that is getting really, really well balanced by a core rule change, not necessarily their points changes. Now, they got some points dropped, which is fair. I mean, their Paladins and their Terminators are just ludicrously expensive, so this is cool. But one of the big things, and this is actually huge, and I'm going to go over this again in a little bit, but they changed the Tournament Companion. They changed the Pariah Nexus Tournament Companion. They fixed it. They fixed the biggest freaking problem. They fixed second or secret missions. No longer can you score primary in round 5 if you're scoring a secret mission. How freaking awesome is that? we got a super chat from Joe, from Mr. Mass Brofect himself here. Give every unit AP 20 for all he cares. He fears nothing now that Sanguinary Guard have invulnerable saves. Listen, I want to agree with you, but I appreciate you. Thank you so much for the super chat, you psycho bear. All right, so yeah, so back to the secret mission. So now you can no longer score primary in round 5. So if you're playing an army that wants to take a secret mission on, say, supply drop, they cannot drop down, score their secret mission, and then also score the 15 for the supply drop. So it's really going to force the armies that are going for the secret mission to really try to score their primary early in the game, which basically fixes secret missions, which is a really good thing. I'm going to do a lot more in depth on that on a separate video, but just so y'all know, that's now fixed, which is freaking awesome. Imperial agents have basically no changes. Subductor squads went up a little bit. Have any of you guys messed around with Imperial agents? I think I've tried to play around with it a little bit, but I just don't really see it working. Yeah, James Hackett asks, has this just been released today? Yeah, man. Points and everything's updated just today. And Orion says, did you see that Lynchman got nerfed? Max 15 victory points per turn. I think this is a great change. It stops you from getting that 23-point swing in round 5. I think that's very cool. Super, super cool. Imperial Knights, basically everything got a little cheaper, which is probably fair for the big knights is what I'm talking about. And then Canis Rex went up a little bit. Also totally fair. Canis Rex is unreasonably powerful. There's also a little bit of a nerf to Canis Rex in a form of an FAQ. What the FAQ says now, this was done today as well, is that if Canis Rex is performing an action and he is blown up, Sir Hector cannot finish that action, even though Sir Hector counts as Canis Rex. So I think that's a interesting little change, and it does make Sir Hector a little less annoying, but he's still super annoying. Leagues of Votann. I would be willing to bet most Votann players are super happy with this, because Votann seems to be in a reasonably good place. The Hearthguard getting a little cheaper is great for them, and they're encouraged to be coming in 5-man models, not 10-man models, which is very cool. I love that change. And the Jaegers went up in points by a little bit. I still think this is hilarious that Jaegers are still that cheap, but they needed to go up a little bit. I would say they need to go up a little bit more, but that's okay. Necrons. Okay. Before people freak out, if you're a Necron player, before you freak out and you say, oh, we got destroyed, Necrons are done, Necrons are terrified, there are massive, massive keyword and rule changes that have happened in Necrons that should make you very, very excited. Okay? First off, here's the deal. Locust Destroyers, solo Locust Destroyers got nerfed a little bit. Good, they needed to. A solo Locust Destroyer for 30 points is ludicrous. Heavy Destroyers went up a little bit. Totally fair. Monolith went up a little bit. I'm not sure I really understand that one, but seems reasonable-ish. And Death Marks went up a little bit. I also don't really understand that one. The things that went down, the DDA going down is stupid. The DDA is just a ludicrously good unit. And then Treyarch Praetorians going down is actually pretty dang cool. Now, none of this matters. Here's what matters about Necrons. They changed the wording for the Obeisance Phalanx. The Silent King has also gained the Treyarch keyword. So now, in Obeisance Phalanx, you can also proc their special ability off of the Noble keyword. If you know what the Obeisance Phalanx does, in your command phase, select one enemy unit until the start of your next command phase. Each time an Overlord, Lichguard, or Triarch unit from your army makes an attack that targets that unit, you get to add 1 to the wound roll. So they have +1 to wound on demand, which is actually quite dang cool. It's actually a very, very nice thing that's going to allow very new builds for the Necrons, which I'm excited to see how that works out. It also will interact with strats and stuff as well. So I'm excited to see some Obeisance Phalanx actually get put down on the table, and it doesn't have to be Hypercrypt or Canoptic Court. So that'll be very, very cool. I think Praetorians are actually better than you do, apparently, Darksha. So, Okay, Codex Orcs. Guys, this is it. This is where the good stuff is. This is where the good stuff is. I am so freaking pumped up about Orcs, and I am thrilled to start bringing some more Orc content because Orcs have played again. I really, really don't think that points were really necessarily the way to balance Orcs, but these points might be enough. So, here's the deal. Snagaboys went down by a significant amount of points. Very, very cool. Makes Snagas quite interesting. Big Mech goes down. Big Mech and Mega Armor goes down. Big Mech with Shock Attack Gun goes down. Boys went down by 5 points. That's also very good. Def Dread goes down by 10 points. Now, I went the Def Dread around the 110 mark, but at 120, I think we can probably experiment with him a little bit. Sorry, my phone's just going a little bit off right now. Def Copters going down to 90 is stupid, guys. Def Copters are so good. Def Copters are such value at 100. Now at 90, dude, I'm gonna have to play more Def Copters. It's freaking hilarious. Gorgonaut went down to 265. I probably still don't like him, but Def Mob enjoyers are going to enjoy him a lot at that point cost. Now, these are very fascinating. The Hunter Rig going all the way down to 135 and the Kill Rate down to 155. The kill rigs rules are still bad, but at that point cost for that data sheet, you really start considering it. Guys, I might be crazy, but you're going to hear it here first. Hunter rigs, kill rigs, do I just take 6 rigs in a list? Because right now I'm planning my WCW list for the World Championships, and I'm like, do I just show up with 6 rigs? I don't know. I just do not know. Yeah, just crazy. But those are some pretty cheap rigs there. Commandos went down by 15 points, which is great. It's a great start. I don't think it fixes Commandos, but perhaps with all the other points drops, we can actually afford a unit to help start breaking down some of those crazy scout units, maybe. Meganobs went down by 5 points each. It is not enough, but perhaps that will start to open up Bully Boys again, because Bully Boys have effectively been dead since the obliteration of the Meganobs. So perhaps. Morkanok goes down a few points. That's cute. And Tank Busters go down in points. Tank Busters are still one of the worst units in the entire game, and you will never freaking use them. All this being said, these points are great, but what's the big deal? What is the big change? The big change is the wording of all of the characters and all of the abilities in Orcs. It has been changed from in a turn on which this model is on the battlefield where you turn what you call a wah, you can use your special ability, etc., etc. Now all of those wordings have been changed to whilst the wah is active for your army. So what does this mean? It means the war boss does get his bonus attacks during the wah phase. It means the war boss and mega arm does get his +1 damage in the wah phase. So it really does start to increase the power of some of these armies again, which is a really big deal because those characters get significantly nerfed from those weird FAQs that GW put out. So they reversed those. Orcs, guys, Manflesh is on the menu, boys. All right. Codex Space Marines. Space Marines are kind of a weird place. So Apothecary Biologus went up in points, and so did the Eradicators. They pretty much got tired of the Fire Discipline combo with the Eradicators because Fire Discipline went up in cost as well. JPI went back up to 90. People think this is a big nerf, but 90 was the original points. I think 85 is probably the sweet spot for them, but 90 is totally fair. A 10-man squad's still at 160, which also I think is great. So if you want to be running 10-mans, you're still happy for that. Ballistus Dreadnought goes down by 5 points. Totally okay. Or maybe it's 10 points. I don't know. I think it's 10 points. I think they went down from 140 to 130. Captain Phobos Armor down a little bit, which is reasonable because that guy's not taken. Eradicators went up. No problem with that. It's only 5 points. Heavy Intercessor Squad went down by 5 points. Man, I desperately want to make Heavy Intercessors work. I desperately want to make Heavy Intercessors. Do you guys have any ideas? Do you guys have any ideas of how to make the Heavy Intercessors work? Because I think they're sick, and I really want them to. I just don't think they do. Yeah, Zulu, I agree. Ultramarine Vanguard is looking really spicy. I would agree with that. Totally. Invader ATV down. Tactical Warsuit. Invictor Suit down to 125. You're going to see these guys. You're going to see Warsuits now because that's pretty freaking cheap. Reaver Squads went down in points. Still not taking them. Robute Gulliman. Did he get like I'm pretty sure. Fact check me on this one, guys. Fact check me. I'm pretty sure Gulliman went down by like 60 points. Like, I think that might be real. That's pretty cheap. Ultramarines are looking like a way to start running now. The Storm Speeders all went down significantly. This is a big deal. You're going to start seeing some of these Storm Speeders on the tabletop. We got the Hail Strike, the Heimer Strike, and the Thunder Strike all going down with a significant points drop. Suppressor Squad went down in points. Still not going to take them. Terminators went down. Still not going to take them. Vanguard Veterans. What the heck did Vanguard Veterans do to warrant a points increase? Like, who's running Vanguard Veterans? I was running them in my Sons of Sanguinius list when I could run a Sanguinary Priest with Jump Pack, but outside of that, there's zero chance I would ever look at Van Vets. So, but they went up. Fair play. It doesn't matter. This affects no one because no one's ever going to run them anyway. So yeah, Hunter Instincts went up for Stormlance. That's the one that lets you come in from reserves turn 1, and then Fire Discipline went up. So, actually very, very fascinating things for Codex Space Marines. I'm really interested to see what like Ultramarine style builds are going to be looking like, especially with all these Storm Speeders, man. That's pretty cool, actually. Space Marines, Space Wolves got a few changes. Nothing earth-shattering, but Wolf Jail is getting nerfed a little bit. Tau Empire, no big deal. They basically said they want you to take more recruit stuff, and they want you to take less Triptides. You're still going to take Triptides. So no big deal for Tau. Thousand Suns, Raise your hands with me, everybody. Raise your hands with me, everybody. Praise to the Emperor and the Omnissiah and whoever else that you want to give praise to. T-Suns got nerfed. T-Suns, if you don't know what I'm talking about, T-Suns are probably the strongest army in the game if you're good with them. Like, if you have a high skill of T-Suns, it's basically impossible to beat you unless you make a mistake. Outside of running like guard, because guard counters them pretty hard. But outside of that, it's almost impossible to beat T-Suns unless the player just makes a mistake, which is not good for the game. It's really nonsense. So all of these points nerfs are 100% warranted, and I think this will make T-Suns still good, because honestly, I think you just kind of drop one character. Maybe you drop Armin from your list, and it more or less stays the same. But I think that might be enough. So I think that's going to make T-Suns usable, or playable against, at least, is what I mean. Not usable, but it's going to be playable against them. Once again, it's kind of cool right there. They're trying to encourage you to take a bigger brick of Rubik's and not the MSU build, which I think is cool. I like that. I just think that's a cool way of doing things. Then into Codex Tyranids, where effectively nothing changes at all. So Carnifexes went down in points. That's actually maybe a little significant. Old One Eye went up in points, so it's a wash because you're taking Carnifexes to run them with Old One Eye, so it's a wash. Single Pyrovore went up in points, which is fine. They went up by 5 points. Lictor went up by 5 points. Thank goodness. Lictors are ludicrous. Lictors might be the highest value single models in the game. Maybe even at 60 points, but at 55 points, certainly. Wing Type Tyrant goes down a little bit. Von Ryan's Lictors go down a little bit. So Tyranids are in a great place, and I think they're still in a great place. No real changes to shaking anything up. And then we looked at World Eaters. No real changes. MOE went up by a little bit. Chaos Spawn went up a little bit. Angron went up a little bit. More or less, this just means that you're going to go back to the 1965 list instead of a 2,000 point list. Basically, it more or less reverses the points changes from the last update, just with different units. So I think it's basically going to be the same army. So that's the points. What are you guys thinking? Because overall, I'm actually really happy with most of the points. There's a few things I would have liked to see a little different, but overall, man, I think the points were pretty freaking good. Now, there were a few things I wanted to go over with some of the, here, maybe since I'm here, I can just kind of show you. So in case you guys missed it, check this out. This is like my favorite thing in the world. How do I, here? If you can see that. Yes, there. Yes, enjoy it. Enjoy the way the secret mission is fixed. Not everyone, people might not necessarily agree that the secret missions were broken, but you were mistaken. The secret missions were broken, and now they are fixed. In the 5th battle round, you cannot score victory points from the primary mission card if you choose secret missions. I love this. I love this so much. It's a really big deal. So that's the big change. And there are some changes to some of the other missions. Oh, look at this. Here, maybe I can choose a different one. Maybe they updated it wrong. Let me try this again. Prior Nexus Tournament Companion. Let's just open this link again. Nope, they don't have the actual primary mission card listed. That's changed, but it's fun. You can pretty much figure it out. So for Scorched Earth, it changed the keyword, the wording to a player, not a unit, which is hilarious. So in the Discord, we had someone make the joke. Since it says a player burns, are people just going to show up with lighters to score Scorched Earth? Oh, someone might try. Oh, rule lawyers. And then for Lynchpin, that's what the second primary mission is here. For Lynchpin, you can now score only 15, like Orion pointed out earlier. So thank you, Orion, for your prophecy. Now, this is a little bit of a weird update. So for Marked for Death, if you're doing the secondary Marked for Death, and you do it on an attached unit, so a unit with a leader, they have clarified you do have to kill both the unit and the leader. However, if it's a unit that has 2 leaders, you only have to kill the unit and one of the 2 leaders if you want to score Marked for Death. So I'm glad that was clarified. That's a little bit of a weird thing with a 2. Maybe they just thought it'd be too hard if there's 2 characters. I don't know. But I'm glad they clarified that. And that's pretty much everything they've clarified in this one. Outside of that, guys, there are lots and lots of changes in the individual indexes. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be breaking down some of the individual indexes. Like tomorrow, I'm going to have an in-depth video on exactly what's happened to Orcs and what we're going to be doing. I'm going to be doing it for your Blood Angels. I'm going to be doing it for the Caustodes, although not much has changed. The big deal with Caustodes really is that a lot of their natural predators get kind of reined in a little. So, but yeah, so I'm going to be going in. There's been massive changes here, And if you are playing your specific army, you really need to go check your index or your codex, because a lot of them were updated, and there are sneaky datasheet changes that have been made that GW has not highlighted. So it's going to be a little while before everyone figures out exactly what those are. Like I was saying with the Caustodes Telemon Dreadnought, now you can give him, you get a different ability if you give him certain equipment. So that's been updated stealthily, and we're not really sure what all those changes are yet. I'll definitely bring them to you as I find them, but chances are low I'm going to find them on every single army in the game. Yeah. Who's excited, man? Because I'm freaking excited. If you're excited, hit the like, share with your friends, because this is some great freaking stuff here. Guys, I am going to probably be playing tonight. I might go live with that if because I want to run either the new Orcs or the new Blood Angels. I think I've got some really interesting builds in mind. So I'll definitely give a ping in the Discord before I go live for that if you guys want to watch. John Fell has a question. He says, wait, no Chaos Demon changes? Not really. Shalaxi went down a little bit. That's basically it. Renmaster went up a tiny bit. So no demons changes. Zulu, you just need to be in my time zone and we could play tonight. But yeah. So that is it, everybody. This is freaking awesome. Orion's pumped. Baby, if you're pumped, then I'm freaking pumped. Let's go. So yeah, man, Team Green is back on the menu. Right now, I can honestly say I'm probably closely looking at Orcs for the World Championships. But maybe different. I think Chaos Space Marines is probably an interesting choice as well. Blood Angels is probably Chase as well. And with that, I'm probably going to go ahead and end the stream. You guys rock. Appreciate your time. We're going to, if you get more questions or if you want to hop in, just go and hop in the Discord under the members section, especially. We've got a lot of conversations going on about some of the changes. So you guys all rock. Appreciate you. And I think you're all awesome. Oh, I got one more question I have to address. Sorry, I got one more question to address. Oh, freaking too many Slaneshi jokes about Shalaxi going down. Not for YouTube, bro. Maybe I'll make that joke in the Discord. But Nacho Clemente 1. What do you think of the new Tank Busters, buddy? Are you talking about the new kill team? Rekka Boys, because if you're talking about those, I think those models are sick as hell, and I'm really excited to see them get rules for 40k. But if you're talking about like Tank Busters just going down a few points, I think it's completely useless, and that unit is awful, and it makes no difference to me at all. So Joe saying, if you turn on members' donations, he donates some. Joe, you are a sexy mamacita, and for my next live stream, which will potentially be tonight, I will turn that on. Take you up on that offer. So with that, everybody, I'm out. Appreciate you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your freaking day. I'll definitely be playing something tonight, so check in later. Peace.